On that bustling morning of wedding preparations for my younger sister, while everyone else was busy arranging flowers and checking the tables, I noticed a strange man standing motionless near the reception desk. He didn't know anyone, didn't speak. A deep blue tie flecked with silver catching the light as he watched me, only kept his eyes fixed on me. I was about to turn away when he suddenly stepped right in front of me and whispered, "Josephine Hayes." My full name, only family ever called me that. I froze. He vanished into the crowd as if he had never existed. I tried scanning the room, but he was nowhere in sight. Guests were still laughing. Hotel staff carried trays of wine past me, and no one seemed to notice what had just happened. Even my mother was preoccupied with straightening the ribbon on Charlotte's dress, completely unaware that a stranger had called my name with a voice so firm it chilled me to the bone. That full name had long been a wound whenever it echoed through the house, a reminder that I was the daughter who never fit. But that man couldn't possibly have known. Why did he appear here, today, in the middle of hundreds of familiar guests? And more importantly, what did his disappearance leave behind? I was still shaken when my mother's voice suddenly rose above the background music in the hall. She stayed in the center of the guests, her tone filled with pride as though she were introducing a movie star stepping onto the stage. My Charlotte is truly a shining gem. Gentle, obedient, brilliant since childhood, and now marrying such a wonderful husband. The guests gasped with admiration, and someone said, "You are blessed indeed. A daughter this beautiful and accomplished, who wouldn't dream of that?" I stood a few steps away, each word pouring into my ears. The feeling was all too familiar. At every gathering, my mother turned Charlotte into the center of the universe. As for me, if I was mentioned at all, it was only as a blurred reflection for comparison. My mother glanced at me, her eyes sweeping from my hair to my shoes. "Josephine is different. She's always buried in work, too ambitious. I keep telling her to be more feminine, to think about family, but she never listens." She said it as though I wasn't even there. Charlotte squeezed her hand gently, her voice sweet. "Oh, Mom, today is a happy day. Don't compare anymore." But I knew those words weren't meant to shield me, only to highlight the contrast between us. Charlotte was used to being praised as the perfect princess, the standard my mother always held up. I let out a faint smile. In reality, who had helped our parents pay off the bank loan last year? Who quietly wired money so Dad wouldn't lose the house? And who had transferred $50,000 into Mom's account to cover today's wedding expenses? Me. But none of that was ever mentioned, never once turned into a thank you, let alone recognition. My father stepped forward, one hand on Charlotte's shoulder, the other raising a glass, his voice booming. "Charlotte is the pride of this family, a gentle daughter who always thinks of others." In that moment, I felt as if in my parents' eyes, I had never truly existed. Since childhood, I'd heard the same refrain on repeat. Charlotte is the model daughter. Josephine is different too, stubborn, too independent, not fitting the standards of a proper family. Those words sank deep, until sometimes even I wondered if they were right. But then I remembered the long nights sitting in front of my laptop, negotiating contracts across the globe. The first time I boarded a plane to Tokyo with only one small suitcase and came back with a deal worth tens of millions. When I signed off the Singapore deal, I rewarded myself with a pair of diamond earrings. That was my life. Everything I built on my own, without a cent from family. But they would never know, and they didn't need to, because I had learned to keep it hidden. To my parents, my work was nothing more than sitting in an office, signing a few papers. So I stayed silent. No one at home knew I was vice president of Asia Pacific Development at a massive investment fund, a position hundreds dreamed of. I hid it, convinced that even if I revealed it, they would dismiss it. Just a title. A daughter still needs a husband. So I remained there, listening as Mom continued praising Charlotte, letting the comparisons cut into me like small, repeated slices. I pressed my lips together, gripping the glass tightly, telling myself silence was the only shield left to protect my dignity. The hotel's grand hall glittered with chandeliers, white flowers lined the corridors, and silk-covered tables gleamed. Everything was so perfect it felt suffocating. I had barely sat down when a relative called out from the family table, "Josephine, When will it be your turn? He laughed heartily, swirling his glass of wine. The whole table erupted with laughter, some tilting their heads to scan me up and down. Almost 33 and still single? Another added, half pity, half mockery. I responded with a faint smile. Instead of answering, I set my glass down, steadying my hands. An aunt chimed in, I bet that tiny apartment of yours in the city must be so lonely. Coming home to an empty place every night. Laughter rippled again. They had no idea the tiny apartment they mocked was actually a penthouse over 4,000 square feet, on the 45th floor, its glass windows opening onto the city's blazing skyline. They didn't know each square foot was the result of 10 years of sleepless work, every dollar earned by me. But I didn't need them to know. Let them laugh, let them believe I was the unlucky sister. Sometimes that made breathing easier. Charlotte entered, her sweet smile flawless under layers of makeup. All eyes turned toward her at once. An aunt rushed over, clutching her hand. Charlotte, you are truly the dream bride. And your sister? She cast me a quick glance, leaving the sentence unfinished. My mother, standing nearby, waved a hand dismissively. Don't say that. Josephine has her own career. It sounded like praise, but the denial underneath was clear. To them, a career would never outweigh a husband. My father added, she's always been stubborn. But well, everyone has their fate. Just then, my purse vibrated. I slipped my phone out discreetly. A message from an unknown number glowed on the screen. They will announce tonight that they're taking what belongs to you. Don't lose it. I froze. I looked around, the crowd was still laughing, clinking glasses. No one seemed to notice me, no one looked like they'd sent that warning. I quickly erased the notification, shoved the phone back and tried to keep my face calm. But my chest tightened. What belongs to you? What did they mean? My assets? My career? Or something else I hadn't yet guessed? The music in the main hall kept playing, but I found an excuse to step out into the back corridor, away from the endless whispers. The mysterious text still weighed like a stone in my chest. I pressed against the wall, clutching my phone, my mind spinning. What exactly did I own that my family could take? The sound of footsteps echoed at the end of reception room, startling me. I quickly ducked behind a decorative curtain. My father's voice carried, low and gravelly, but laced with calculation. Tonight, during the speech, we'll announce Charlotte's special wedding gift. My mother answered, her tone smug. Yes. It's time. Josephine's penthouse? I went numb. My lips parted but no sound came out. Charlotte gasped, half surprised, half thrilled. The penthouse? You mean, the luxury apartment my sister actually lives in? My father nodded, his voice firm. Yes, I've confirmed it through a friend at the bank. All the papers are in her name. A property worth millions. She's been hiding it from the family, but now she will hand it over to you in front of everyone. My heart pounded wildly in my chest. They knew. How long had they known? I'd always thought only I and a few trusted partners knew the truth. I'd been so careful, never letting anything slip in family conversations. Yet my parents had secretly investigated, and now they wanted to turn 10 years of my work into a wedding gift for my sister. Charlotte let out a small, awkward laugh. I don't think she'll agree. My mother immediately brushed it off. Don't worry. Your sister is proud, but that pride means she won't dare refuse. Hundreds of guests and cameras. In front of the crowd, she'll have to smile and hand over the keys. My father added, his tone as hard as nails. This is how the whole world will see you as the true center of this family. My breath caught. I clenched my fists so tightly my nails dug into my palms, stinging. They didn't want my property. They wanted to humiliate me, to make me proof of failure on my sister's wedding day. I pressed my back against the cold wall, trying to keep my steps silent. In my head, questions piled one after another. Why would my parents do this? Charlotte's laugh rang out, trembling but hopeful. If it's really as you say, this will be the most wonderful thing. I'll have space to start a family. My mother softened her voice, doting on Charlotte in a way she'd never used with me. That's right, darling. You deserve it all. Your sister? She lives alone. She doesn't need a place that big. Those words were nothing new. Since I was a child, I'd heard my mother say, Charlotte is the kind of girl everyone wants to marry. And me, in her eyes, I was the stubborn one who didn't know her place. But hearing it now, on Charlotte's wedding day, I finally understood. Their favoritism had never stopped at comparison. It had become an actual plan. I wanted to rush out and shout in their faces that the penthouse was built from my blood, sweat, and tears, that no one had the right to take it. But I held back. If I came out now, they would know I had heard everything. I needed time. I needed to stay calm. A movement at the end of the hallway made me look up. The strange man from this morning had appeared again. He stayed leaning on the railing, a glass of wine in his hand, but his eyes never left my family. When his gaze met mine, he gave a slight nod, as if to confirm that he too knew about the scheme. A chill ran down my spine. Who was he? Why show up right now? And why did he know about the penthouse? I turned away, trying to hide the storm inside me. My parents and Charlotte's footsteps faded down the ballroom. I exhaled, my palms still marked by my nails. The strange text message on my phone was no longer a vague warning. It was real. They truly meant to publicly take my penthouse tonight. And that man, he clearly knew more than I thought. The music softened, then stopped completely. The sound of spoons tapping glasses rang out in measured beats across the glittering wedding hall. 200 guests fell silent at once, turning their eyes to where my father lingered, holding a microphone. A confident smile spread across his face. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice boomed through the speakers, slow and steady. "Today is an incredibly special day for our family. My daughter Charlotte has found a wonderful man to share her life. And as her parents, we want to give the couple a truly worthy gift." I sat at a front table, my wine glass trembling in my hand. My breath came fast. I could already sense what was about to happen, yet part of me still hoped I had misheard in the hallway. My father lifted his chin, his eyes sweeping under the chandeliers. "To show our love and family bond, we're delighted to announce that Josephine, the bride's sister, will be giving her penthouse to Charlotte and her husband as a wedding gift." In an instant, I heard the blood roar in my ears. The room exploded with applause, cheers, and excited ohs. Charlotte brought her hands to her mouth, eyes wide in fake surprise. But I caught the flicker of a smile at her lips. It wasn't surprise. It was triumph. "Oh my God, sis. Really?" Charlotte cried, stepping closer to the microphone my father still held. "The penthouse? You're really giving it?" Whispers rose around us. "So generous. A wedding gift like no other. Josephine is such an amazing sister." All eyes drilled into me. The glass in my hand grew heavier, my fingers trembling, but I forced my face to stay calm. My father continued, his voice even more excited. "Josephine is our eldest daughter, and today she has chosen to put family above everything. This proves that family love conquers all differences." I looked around, the chandelier's light reflecting off smiling faces. Inside, I felt like an animal cornered in a cage. I glanced up and caught my mother's eyes. She gave a small nod, her smile like a blade. "Step up, hand it over." Charlotte turned to me, her face radiant. "I don't know what to say except thank you, sis. You're truly the best sister ever." The hall buzzed with admiration. A guest behind me whispered loud enough for me to hear. "She must be rich to give a gift like that." I gripped the glass, waves of anger rising inside me. No one here knew I had never agreed. This was a staged performance, and I'd been dragged in without consent. At that moment, my phone vibrated in my bag. I slipped it open under the table. A message from the same unknown number. "The live feed is up. Thousands are watching." I snapped my head up, scanning the room. At table 8, a young man, maybe a cousin of the groom, had propped his phone on a small stand, camera pointed at the stage. In the corner of the screen glowed a red word. Live. This entire charade, this blatant coercion, was being broadcast to the world. I set down my glass and stayed slowly. The chair behind me creaked loud enough to draw glances. My heart pounded like it would burst. "Josephine?" My father extended a hand, inviting me onto the stage. "Come here, join your parents and sister. Hand over the symbolic key so everyone can witness this sacred moment." Applause thundered again. I walked step by step, my feet sinking into the tile. Every stare, every whisper pressed on my shoulders. I heard murmurs. "Such a wealthy sister. Charlotte is so lucky." Rare generosity like this. Charlotte stayed there, her eyes sparkling falsely, her hand outstretched. My mother beamed, her hand on Charlotte's shoulder, eyes triumphant. I stopped a few paces away, feeling the air tighten. The live stream image flickered in my mind. If I nodded and handed it over, the world would cheer for Charlotte, and I'd forever be the one in the shadows. But if I refused, the hall would turn on me. Accusations would rain down. Selfish, ruining the big day. Outside, the city still blazed through the huge glass windows, but here, under the chandeliers, I'd been pushed to the edge. I kept still beneath the dazzling lights, the microphone only steps away. My father held out his hand, the ballroom waiting for my nod. Charlotte extended her pale hand toward me, her glittering smile as if the play had gone exactly as scripted. I drew a deep breath, then let the words fall, clear and firm. I'm sorry. I'm not giving anything. The space shattered with shock. The applause died instantly. My father froze, his hand still raised. Charlotte stared, her mouth slightly open, eyes blinking rapidly. Murmurs spread like wildfire. What did she say? Not giving it? But they announced it. My father's face paled, but he forced a smile. He pulled the microphone closer. Josephine, don't joke on a day like this. Say it again, everyone is waiting. I didn't move. I'm not joking. The penthouse is mine, and I have never agreed to give it to anyone. A few nervous laughs rose, then died when they saw my face. My mother shot up from the head table, her gown sweeping the floor, storming down the steps so fast the crowd parted for her. Her hand trembled as she ripped the microphone from my father. Her shrill voice blasted through the speakers. Josephine, you selfish girl, you've humiliated this family in front of every guest here. Her words echoed off the high ceiling, startling many. Charlotte lifted a hand, pretending to wipe away tears. Sis, why would you do this to me? I thought you loved me. Guests shook their heads, whispers rising. Refusing her sister on her wedding day? So cruel. But I waited firm, my eyes locked on my mother. I am not disgracing anyone. I'm only keeping what belongs to me. Shut up! My mother screamed, striding toward me. I caught a flash from a camera at the corner of the room. That live stream was still running, and now, every word from my mother was being broadcast to thousands of screens. She stopped right in front of me, her face red, eyes blazing. Her hand shot up, and before I could react, the slap cracked across my cheek. The sound ripped through the room. A few guests gasped. The photographer's camera clicked rapidly, but the loudest sound was that slap, ringing in my ears. The sting spread across my cheek, my head tilted to the side. I didn't raise a hand, didn't strike back. Slowly, I lifted my head. The chandelier light burned on my raw face, and at the far end of the venue, through the crowd, I saw the strange man again. He held up his phone, recording us. His eyes were calm, cold, as if everything that had unfolded was part of his plan. The slap wasn't only personal humiliation, it was recorded, witnessed, broadcast, and in that moment when I met his, I gazed through the crowd. The battle wasn't over. It had begun. My mother was still panting, the microphone in her hand buzzing from her tight grip. She glanced around, realizing the entire room was staring at her. But instead of retreating, she hissed through her teeth. You will regret defying your parents. I straightened, my voice low but clear, carrying through the room without a microphone. No. The ones who will regret this are not me. Footsteps rang out, steady on the marble floor. The strange man at the end of the hall walked straight into the center. His gray suit fit perfectly, his deep blue tie patterned with silver. He didn't hurry, but each step made the crowd part, as if some unseen force compelled them to move aside. Whispers spread. Who is that? Who does he think he is barging in? I saw him recording earlier, my mother snapped, her tone sharp. This is a family matter. Who are you to interfere? The man stopped at the foot of the stage. He pulled a thin metal business card from his jacket, raising it under the lights. William Carter, CEO of Carter Financial Group. The ballroom erupted. Murmurs crashed like waves. My God, Carter Financial? They own shares in Hayes Company. What is he doing here? The name was no stranger to me. For years, I'd worked on deals tied to Carter Financial, signed memos bearing his name, heard him mentioned in high-level meetings, but I'd never met him in person. To me, William Carter was a distant figure, an industry legend. And now, he was standing here at my sister's wedding. William turned, facing the crowd, pulling a nearby microphone close. I didn't come to attend a wedding. I came to protect my partner, Josephine Hayes. The word partner clenched my chest. Eyes swung from me to my family. My father stumbled half a step back, his face ashen. What did you say? Josephine, a partner of Carter Financial? That's right. For the past 3 years, she's been the one I trust to coordinate key projects across the Asia-Pacific region. The contracts that brought your company hundreds of millions in profit, Richard, all bear Josephine's hand. A roar spread through the crowd. Some guests covered their mouths. Others exclaimed, "Impossible!" Right there in the hall, Charlotte clutched her wedding dress, her eyes wide and round. She whispered faintly, loud enough for the front rows, "Sis, you worked with Carter Financial? Why did I never know?" I looked straight at her, not hiding anymore, because no one in this family ever wanted to know. My mother trembled, squeezing the microphone until it buzzed harshly. She stammered, "Mr. Carter, you must be mistaken. This girl, she only does office work, nothing important." William cut her off. "You may dismiss her, but I do not. I don't put hundreds of millions of my corporation's dollars in the hands of someone unimportant. Josephine has been my right hand in the biggest deals. And today, I came because I heard she was being forced by her own family to surrender her legal property." Each word landed like a hammer. I saw my father tremble, sweat forming on his forehead. "That property is the Penthouse. It belongs to Josephine. No one has the right to declare otherwise." The crowd surged with noise. Whispers shifted. "So, she's the one holding the company up. All these years overlooked, yet, what shame for this family." The air grew thick, buzzing like a hive. But William didn't let anyone drown him out. He stepped forward, firmly taking the microphone from a nearby technician. "Let me make this clear right here," William said, his voice resonant, each word firm. "The penthouse mentioned is not family property as Mr. and Mrs. Hayes claimed. It is part of Josephine Hayes's executive compensation package, signed legally, with explicit contractual anti-coercion clauses." The phrase, anti-coercion, dropped like a bomb. I felt every gaze pierce my family. William pressed on, eyes fixed on my parents. "What happened here, in front of every guest and thousands watching online, can be classified as asset seizure and public abuse. I will not let this stand." I noticed guests pulling out their phones, their faces aghast. The glittering wedding had turned into a courtroom. My father tried to recover his authority, his voice hoarse. "Mr. Carter, this is a misunderstanding. Weddings are emotional. We only wanted to bring joy to our younger daughter." William cut him off, gripping the microphone. "A misunderstanding?" I witnessed Mrs. Carol Hayes slap her daughter on stage. I heard Mr. Richard Hayes declare, "Josephine will hand over the penthouse," when she never agreed. And most importantly, it was all recorded, live-streamed. Millions can watch it right now. My mother shook, her lips moving without sound. Charlotte stood frozen, her eyes wet but unblinking. Just then, a chair scraped at table 7. A middle-aged man in a navy suit rose. I recognized him instantly. Mr. Patterson, CEO of Patterson Industries, one of my father's biggest partners. "Richard," he said, his voice carrying without a mic, "I've invested in your company for 10 years. I believed in your integrity. But after what I saw, I cannot continue. Patterson Industries is suspending participation in your expansion project, pending an immediate ethics review." My father staggered, as if punched in the chest. Before he could respond, at table 10, a short-haired woman with a sharp frame stayed quiet. "Mrs. Williams, CEO of Williams Logistics. Me too. My family does not do business with people who openly despise their own blood. The transport contract we signed just last week, consider it suspended pending formal termination." The murmurs swelled louder than crashing waves. Then, from table 13, Mr. David Kim of Kim Electronics rose, his voice low but hard as steel. No one in this industry can partner with a leader who trades away ethics to coerce his own child. My company is initiating steps to sever ties, effective upon legal notice. Each declaration struck like an axe into a rotting tree. I looked at my father, saw his shoulders slump, his face pale as ash. My mother gaped, eyes frantic as she searched for anyone to defend them. But no, the entire hall was turning its back. Charlotte burst into tears, sobs echoing through the microphone abandoned on the floor, but no one rushed to comfort her. The proud family's image lay in ruins on what was supposed to be their daughter's glorious day. William turned, this time facing the still glowing live stream camera. What you've witnessed is not only a family tragedy, it is a lesson in greed and contempt for the law. But I believe Josephine Hayes will no longer bear this alone. The guests buzzed louder. Some nodded, so it was Josephine carrying the weight all along. Poor thing, treated like that on her sister's wedding day. Shameful for that family. I didn't need to say a word. Their voices rose for me, revealing the truth I had been buried under for years. Moments earlier, soft music floated under chandeliers. Now, only shouts, ringing phones, and a clamor like a marketplace filled the venue. I kept still, a spectator to my family's self-destruction. My mother covered her face, then wailed in anguish. Her cries tore through the hall. No, that's not true. You don't understand. This was only a performance, a surprise, not coercion. I love my daughter. I did nothing wrong. But no one believed her. Cold, scornful eyes turned on her. My father tried to interject, his voice trembling, still clawing at authority. Please, calm yourselves. There are family matters outsiders cannot judge so quickly. We only wanted to bring our daughters together, to give our youngest a good start. His words landed weak, drowning beneath the din. Some guests chuckled bitterly, others shook their heads. From table 6, a middle-aged man I vaguely recalled him signing a parts distribution contract spoke bluntly. Mr. Hayes, you've lost our trust. This is not a private family matter. This is about ethics and reputation. No one will work with your company after tonight. He wanted to go on, but his throat caught. His face flushed red, then turned pale, sweat beading on his forehead. Charlotte collapsed to her knees on the red carpet, clutching her white gown. Tears streaked her makeup into smeared lines. No, it can't end like this. Her voice broke, ragged. My marriage. Brian, please don't leave me. You have to believe me. I didn't know. Brian, the groom, remained like stone, his face gray, his eyes flicking from my parents to William Carter. At last he stepped back, lowering the wine glass in his hand. He said nothing, leaving Charlotte's sobs to echo among the bitter whispers. A woman in a green dress? I recognized her as Brian's mother slowly stood. Her voice was icy. Our family will have to reconsider this marriage. No one wants an alliance with a family willing to humiliate their own daughter in front of hundreds. Charlotte reeled as if slashed, wailing harder, clawing at the carpet, repeating over and over, "No, please, please don't do this." My mother rushed forward, clutching her youngest, crying out, "Charlotte, don't be afraid. Everything will be fine, I'll fix this. Don't listen to them." But no one paid her any attention. The cameras, the phones, the whispers drowned her out. I quietly observed, my hand brushing the cheek still stinging from her slap. In that moment, I felt outside of it all, watching my family crumble piece by piece. The walls of illusion they'd built for decades now torn down before everyone. I inhaled deeply and stepped back from the stage. The lights, the cameras, the noise all focused on the chaos ahead. I left the wedding hall in silence, my back straight, head high. No explanations, no glance back. The doors closed behind me, yet the uproar still spilled out like distant waves, sobs, shouts, whispers, chairs scraping. I didn't turn. Not out of pride, but because I knew I had seen enough. Outside, the night air chilled as it slipped through glass corridors. I stepped to the hotel's front. Traffic still roared on the avenue, golden lights stretching like endless ribbons. Life outside went on, while the world inside had collapsed. I hailed a cab. The driver glanced at me in the mirror, eyes pausing on the red mark across my cheek. He asked nothing. I was grateful for the silence. The car rolled toward the tower where my penthouse stood, solid above the city. When the elevator lifted me to the 45th floor, my phone buzzed nonstop. At first, I thought it was the usual stream of messages, but when the screen lit up, I froze. Dozens, then hundreds of notifications, texts, emails, even friend requests from strangers. I opened the first. I watched the clip. "Thank you for standing up. My parents always favored my brother. Seeing you resist felt like I was freed too." Another followed. "Josephine, I don't know you, but I cried watching that. Thank you for not staying silent." Message after message poured in stories of being forced to give everything to siblings, of being dismissed for being different, of being pushed aside. They cascaded like a flood. My pain, I realized, was not mine alone. It was shared by many. That night, I sat in my living room, phone glowing, notifications chiming nonstop. I read each line quietly. Each story another life, another proof of the silence endured by children never chosen as the pride. And now, somehow, they saw themselves in me. Meanwhile, across the city, my family faced the backlash. The clip of the slap and coercion spread like wildfire. By morning, major local outlets led with headlines on the incident. Businessman Richard Hayes forces daughter to surrender assets. Wife slaps her in lavish wedding. On social media, a 1-minute video, the slap under chandelier light, the gasps of the crowd was shared hundreds of thousands of times. Comments piled beneath every post. "Can't believe any parent would do that." "Josephine, you're not alone, we stand with you." "That's not family, that's a burden." Local TV stations covered it, legal experts debating domestic asset coercion. My parents' names appeared again and again, but not in the triumphant headlines they once craved. Consequences came faster than anyone expected. The company's 3 biggest contracts collapsed at once. Patterson Industries issued a blunt statement. "We do not partner with those lacking transparency or basic ethics." Williams Logistics canceled a transport contract worth tens of millions. Kim Electronics posted publicly, "There is no place for violence or coercion in business." In less than 48 hours, the company my father built over 30 years lost more than half its market value. Shares plunged, small shareholders demanded his resignation. I didn't see it firsthand, but every news piece, every broadcast, every colleague's text showed me. My father's reputation didn't crumble slowly. It dropped like a tower brought down by explosives. And Charlotte, I could see she was trapped in her own nightmare. Her in-laws reacted harshly. They couldn't accept a bride who brought such scandal. Rumors spread. Brian's mother had already called a lawyer to discuss annulling the marriage, and the photos, the bride collapsed in tears on the red carpet, became a national joke online. Lavish wedding turns to farce, one paper blared. Pictures of Charlotte, mascara running, wedding gown stained from kneeling, circled with thousands of mocking comments. Sitting in the Minations, a quiet room, I scrolled through the news with a strange sadness. Not pity, but the recognition that everything was unraveling as an inevitable consequence. My phone lit up again. This time it was a long message from a woman I didn't know. "Josephine, I am 50 years old. My whole life I gave everything to my younger brother, from the house our parents left behind to taking care of them in old age. I never dared to say no. Last night, when I watched you stand up and say, 'I do not agree,' I burst into tears. Thank you for doing what I wish I had done 30 years ago." Outside, the city lights still glowed, but inside me, it felt as if another light had been switched on, a gentle light of understanding and shared experience. I leaned back in the chair, letting my phone continue to buzz with hundreds of messages. Each ping no longer weighed me down but became proof that I was no longer alone. I understood once the truth had surfaced, nothing could shove it back into the dark. From that moment, the story was no longer mine alone. It had touched the hearts of those wounded in the same way. In the days after the scandal, I barely left my penthouse. News flooded every outlet. Social media endlessly repeated my name. I didn't speak out, yet it felt like the whole city was discussing me. While my family scrambled to face their collapse, my phone overflowed with encouragement, with gratitude from strangers. One weekday morning, as I set my coffee cup on the table, my phone lit with a short text from William Carter. "Noon today. My office. We need to talk." For years I had worked through intermediaries, reports, online meetings, but never a direct, private meeting with him. And yet now, after everything, he reached out to me as an equal. William's office was on the top floor of a glass tower in the financial district. When the elevator doors opened, two assistants were waiting, leading me to a room with glass walls overlooking the city. William sat at the clared desk, white shirt, no tie, his calm expression sharpened by eyes bright as steel. "Josephine, thank you for coming." He rose and extended his hand. His grip was warm, firm, making me feel safe without meaning to. We sat, and William got straight to the point. "I've been following you for a long time, but that night, when I saw how you stayed calm, refused to compromise, refused to bow under pressure, I knew it was time to make something official." He paused, meeting my eyes. "I want to invite you to join the board of Carter Financial. Not only as Vice President of Global Development, but as a full member of the executive board. For years, I had poured myself into proving my worth in every deal, every contract. I was used to standing in the shadows while others claimed the credit. His offer came so suddenly, like a door flung open to a world I had never dared to dream of. I don't know what to say," I stammered, my cheeks warm. William smiled. "You don't need to say anything. You've already proven it through your actions. What I need on the board is not only expertise, but the courage to set boundaries. You are the embodiment of that." I sat still, letting his words sink in. In my mind, my mother's slap flickered, then shifted into the thousands of supportive messages from strangers. Maybe this was the true meaning of it all, that personal pain, once exposed, could become a torch for others. I nodded slowly. "I accept. But on one condition. I'll complete a proper transition at my current fund before I take the new role." William raised an eyebrow. "And that is?" I drew a deep breath, speaking each word with care. "I want to dedicate part of my profits to create a fund. A fund for women like me, those suffocated, dismissed, or exploited by their own families. They need shelter when they decide to leave, financial and legal support, and above all, a voice reminding them they are not alone." William's eyes softened. He nodded, as if my words matched something he'd already thought. "I knew you'd say something like that. And I support it. Carter Financial will co-fund it with you. Consider this a shared pledge. No one should live under oppression in their own home." I bit my lip, holding back sudden tears. For the first time, my dream wasn't dismissed as pointless ambition. It was recognized, even lifted higher. When I left that building, the breeze caught my hair. The city below seemed brighter. My steps carried me not only upward in my career, but into a new role, a symbol for those who had never been heard. That night, back in my penthouse, I looked out over the ocean of lights as my phone buzzed again. This time, a message from a woman in Texas. "Thank you. Because of you, I finally left my parents' house after 30 years of control. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I deserve freedom." Those messages, those people, became the reason I kept moving forward. And now I had the tools to do more. A position of power, a support fund, and a story no longer mine alone. By Monday morning, before I even opened my eyes, my phone was flooded with notifications. Headlines filled with my family's name appeared non-stop. I pulled the curtain, letting the pale morning light spill into the quiet room. But outside, the storm raged on. My father finally bowed his head. A video appeared on a major news channel. He wore a suit, but his face looked a decade older, sitting before a faded backdrop. His voice was hoarse, every word heavy as stone. "I, Richard Hayes, apologize for my actions and words at my daughter's wedding. I behaved wrongly. I hurt my own child. I take responsibility and will work with partners to rebuild trust." The clip spread quickly, but no one believed it came from true remorse. People said it was only a tactic to save his crumbling company. His empty eyes in the video spoke louder than the words. My mother chose a very different path. She rushed online, posting endless paragraphs with photos of herself crying, claiming she was a victim of lies, that outsiders manipulated our children against us. I skimmed through her posts, feeling both bitter and detached. The comments below offered her no sympathy. What kind of mother slaps her daughter in public? She's only digging her own grave. A victim? More like the perpetrator. Each comment cut away at the image she'd tried to polish for years. Instead of pity, she became a laughingstock, her pretense stripped bare. Charlotte, meanwhile, sank into her own storm. Just 2 weeks after the wedding, divorce rumors appeared. Brian could not endure the pressure from family and public, and his family cut ties with the Hayeses. The lavish wedding, prepared for months, ended as an unfinished farce. Photos of Charlotte collapsed in tears on the red carpet became symbols of failure, plastered across countless mocking posts. One evening, I received a single text from her. "You won. Are you happy now?" I decided to cut all contact. My parents' and Charlotte's numbers were blocked, emails from the family business deleted. I hired security to replace every digital lock in the penthouse, adding new recognition codes. When the technician finished, he asked, "Do you want to keep the old codes as backup?" I shook my head. "No. From now on, I'm the only one who can open this door." As the lock clicked shut, I felt a weight lift, like an invisible chain falling away. But I didn't feel empty. On the contrary, the space left by family was beginning to fill with people I chose. Rachel, a longtime colleague, came to the penthouse one weekend evening with a bottle of red wine and 2 boxes of pizza. She plopped onto the carpet, chuckling. "Who needs a lavish wedding when we can eat pizza in a penthouse like this?" We laughed, our voices echoing through the room, washing away the shadows. Days passed. Other friends from work, colleagues who had lingered by me in tough projects, visited too. They brought flowers, books, and small everyday stories. They didn't see me as the victim in the clip, but as myself, a teammate, a friend. In the days that followed, I spent more time connecting with coworkers. The Carter Financial Board welcomed me as a true ally. Meetings no longer made me feel I had to fight for recognition. For the first time, I sat in a room full of power and didn't feel out of place. And when I returned to the penthouse, opening the door into light and stillness, I no longer felt lost. Around me were genuine people, relationships built on respect and trust. I knew my blood family had shattered beyond repair. But from that wreckage, I could build something new, a chosen home, founded on boundaries I set and friendships freely given. That night, the city stretched below like a golden carpet. I lingered by the glass, hands around a steaming cup of tea, watching the glowing roads crisscross like the veins of a vast body. The rhythm outside felt steady, calm, so unlike the chaos of the past weeks. Sometimes I thought this silence was louder than the applause or shouting at the wedding. It was the pause I needed to finally hear my own heart. The doorbell rang, cutting through my thoughts. I froze. Who could be visiting at this hour? I stepped out, checked the security screen. No one. A small package at my door. I opened it, peeling away the tape. Inside was old wrapping paper, musty with age, reminding me of childhood afternoons searching through my grandmother's storage room. I carefully unfolded the paper and held my breath. It was an old wooden frame, edges chipped but still warm brown. Inside, a photo of my grandmother, sitting straight, eyes bright as if they saw through everything. I had seen it once as a child, then it disappeared. My hands shook as I picked up the small card beneath it. The handwriting tilted slightly, familiar enough to sting. "Don't ever let them take your light." I sat still for a long time, fingertips tracing each stroke. My breath slowed, my eyes blurred. She had been gone for years, yet in that moment, I heard her voice in my ear, warm and steady. I placed the frame on the wooden shelf in the living room, where the first morning light could touch it each day. The room was quiet, but inside me, strength spread softly. Outside, the city never stopped moving. From strangers' messages, from women who found courage through my story, I knew this light wasn't mine alone. It belonged to everyone ever hidden by the dark. At dawn, sunlight slipped through the wide glass, striking the photo. My grandmother's face glowed, her eyes smiling at me. I touched the window pane, the light reflecting on my skin, brightening my own face. In that moment, I thought of nothing about hate or loss. Only this. Once lit, this light will never die. Perhaps here, I should stop and leave the rest to you, the ones listening to this story. What do you think about how a family can be both a shelter and a burden one must rise against to protect oneself? If you were in my place, would you stay silent, or would you stand up and set boundaries? Every family story carries its own weight, and I believe each of you will see a reflection of yourselves in mine. Share your thoughts below, because sometimes even small words can be the strength someone else needs. And if you want to continue walking with stories of family, of choices, of limits, and of inner strength, follow this channel so you won't miss the next one. Somewhere ahead, that story might be the message meant just for you.